Okay, let's go ahead and get into it. First of all, if you're new to this channel, I want to say thank you and welcome. So glad that you guys are here. And if you have just subscribed, thank you and welcome as well. And as you can see, we cover a wide range of different stories. As you can see right now, our focus, like many other platforms, has been on these elections here in the States. So that's where most of our focus is on. But we've also been looking at other things too. I mean, if you didn't catch our coverage on the biolab fire, the fallout of that down in Georgia, please make sure you go back and watch that. We're still on that. I'm still getting information. And I tell you, the stuff that I'm getting now, it's very concerning. I mean, not like the other stuff wasn't before, but the twists and turns that are already happening at such a breakneck speed, it's just really something. So we're going to stay on top of that and other things. And, the thing about these elections is that it's the perfect time for the powers that shouldn't be to get us distracted on these other, on this thing, which is the Democrats versus the Republicans and, and all she said this, and did you notice what he did and all this other stuff. But in the meantime, there's other things that we should be focusing on. I just mentioned the whole fire down in Georgia, but there's also something else even greater than that. And for many of you, you may have heard the term BRICS. Okay. BRICS is basically a growing group of nations. That's Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Do I got all of it? Yep, I got all of them. But it's not just them. There's many others. If you look at this map here, that are joining them. So it's not just them. There's many other countries that are joining them. And what they're basically saying is enough is enough. We're tired of basically having to depend on the American dollar and being subjected to that. We're done with the West. We want to create our own thing. And so what these countries are doing is basically coming together, building their own trade agreements and all of that. And at the same time, leaving the West or the United States out in the dust, basically. And so what's happening now is on the 22nd, that's this month here in October, they're going to be getting together. Now, they've been hinting and talking about this in the past, but they're moving, taking huge steps towards this, where they officially are going to move away from the dollar and they're going to move to their own currency that's going to be gold backed. And once this happens, it's pretty much lights out for the United States when it comes to the dominance that the United States has enjoyed for years and years and years. Now, I want you to keep listening, because I know for some of you, when we start getting into geopolitics sometimes, that may not be your area. But I'm going to tell you right now, as you continue to listen to this video, you're going to see why, whether you want it to be your area or not, it's really at your front door. So what I want to do now is I want to play for you this clip. I'm going to play about 5 minutes of this clip. This is an investigation or a video that was done on the YouTube channel Redacted, and they do very good work, and they're actually talking about this particular topic. And like I said, I'm gonna play about 5 minutes of it. If you want to see it in its entirety, just go to our description below, and I have the link there where you can watch the whole thing, where he really gets into it. But I want you to watch this video, this clip here, so that you can understand just how important this thing really is. And you're going to see it's a lot bigger than these elections that we got on right now. And the elections is just a small part of a much bigger trend that the world is moving towards right now. So let's take a listen and watch this video, and then I'll be right back after this.
Something huge is about to happen, and United States dominance is on the line right now. While most of the United States is focused on our election just 23 days away, something huge is happening where the global world order is being rearranged right before our eyes right now, and Washington, D.C. is desperately trying to hold on to power. There is a global war that is quietly happening that they don't want you to know about. Guys, this is as big as it gets for world power and U.S. dollar dominance and the failure of this Biden administration. So you better pay attention to what's happening. So there are a number of huge news developments that we need to cover today, which have massive implications for Western powers. And I'm going to show you something very troubling that NATO just did, which no mainstream media are covering, by the way. It's very concerning. But first, let's start with what's happening in Russia in just 9 days from now, a global showdown that is unprecedented in its scale and its implications. A titanic struggle is about to unfold between NATO and the BRICS nations. The timing, by the way, is set on purpose right before the United States election. It's a clear message from Putin and China that American dominance is coming to an end. This clash will officially kick off at the eagerly anticipated BRICS summit in Kazan, Russia on October 22nd. Now, while the mainstream media might be busy pushing distractions, we are here to break down what's going on right now, what's truly at stake, a global battle over resources, the unraveling of the U.S. dollar's dominance, the sort of fighting to hang on from NATO, and the potential shift for a seismic shift in global power dynamics right now. Now, you might be asking, why all the fuss about this summit? This isn't just any summit. This is the equivalent right now of the Bretton Woods Conference after World War II, which gave American dollar reserve currency status around the world. This BRICS summit represents the death of the Bretton Woods Conference and the end of U.S. dollar dominance. Donald Trump said this is going to be worse than losing a war.
Our country's going to hell, and we're not going to be the big bar. We have power, but it's waning. In fact, it's waning in terms of our currency. And I'm not just talking about the value of our currency. I'm talking about our currency being used throughout the world.
You want it to remain. You want the dollar to remain the world's reserve currency.
Well, I think it's bigger than losing any war.
And Trump is right. Under President Biden and Kamala Harris, the BRICS nations have massively accelerated their size and scope. On October 22nd, the BRICS countries, comprised of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa as its leaders, now expanding to include Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the UAE. It now represents a staggering 35.6% of global GDP by purchasing power parity and 45% of the world's population. Iran has joined BRICS. At the same time, nutjobs in Washington, D.C. want to go to war with Iran to help Israel.
Okay, before we continue, make sure if you haven't checked it already, if you're on your desktop and you're watching this video, look below, you'll see those pictures there. Well, that's part of our store. Now, if you're on your phone, you'll see a little thing there, that little shopping bag thing. That will take you to our store. Now, listen, we are in a time right now where your body is going through its natural course where it's preparing for the winter. And so that's why you have a lot of times people getting colds and flus and stuff like that, but also the great amount of stress with all of this stuff that's happening. Well, there are things that our creator has put in our environment, in creation, that will help us during times like this. And so if you go to sambatree.com, and like I said, you can look at those links there. You'll see we got all kinds of things from moringa powder to soursop leaves, so you can make soursop tea. We got sea moss. We got tamarind. We got turmeric. We got all kinds of powders and things like that that are great. And we'll address a lot of these things. And I tell you, it's just been a blessing to sit back and to read the letters that we're getting back from people who are talking about seeing a noticeable, a true difference in their blood pressure, diabetes, and a lot of other things there. Now, of course, you got to combine that with how you eat and exercise and things like that. But getting nature in your body, that's what we're all about. So if you got a little bit extra time, make sure you check out our website, sambatree.com. Now, let's get back into it. So as you can see, I mean, this thing is a lot bigger than, the elections is just a small part of a much bigger thing. And as you heard Donald Trump, what he just said, in that clip, one of the things he said in that clip is, listen, if we lose this battle when it comes to the dominance of the dollar, it's pretty much over. This is the war. This is the war that we should be focusing on right now. And by a lot of estimates out there, the United States is definitely losing this war. So this is where our focus really needs to be on. But I want you to pay attention to, especially to now, where we're going to focus on right now is what China has been doing all of these years while we've been dilly-dallying on these other issues. As you already aware that Chinese businessmen who are directly tied to the Chinese government have been buying up farmland all throughout the United States. Now, it's arguable, as far as how much they've been buying, but the fact is they, in fact, have been buying farmland. They've been buying buildings in cities like Chicago, New York, all over the country. They certainly have been buying real estate and all of that. So Chinese investors who have been operating as surrogates of the government have been buying quite a bit of this country. But they've been also investing in something else that I don't think you've heard too many people talk about. Let's take a look. Now, did you hear about this one? Check this out. Now, this is Howard University. They just posted this on October the 2nd of this year. It says, we welcome Dr. Mingshu Zhan, our visiting fellow to the Center of African Studies at Howard University. She will be with us for the month of October. Now, before you laugh and think that, oh, this is crazy, this is insane, I want you to keep listening, okay, as we're going through this. Dr. Zhan is a postdoctoral research fellow at the Center for Africa-China Studies, University of Johannesburg, South Africa. What did I just say? South Africa is part of BRICS, okay? Very important. So she's Chinese, and she's a graduate of, she's coming out of the University of Johannesburg, South Africa, which is also part of BRICS. Okay, let's keep on. She holds a PhD from the Center of Global Studies in Bonn University in Germany. Her research interest includes China-Africa relations and EU-China-Africa trilateral relations with a focus on the economy, infrastructure, and energy. And they said during her stay at Howard University, she'll be giving lectures, furthering her research and collaborating with U.S.-based China-Africa scholars. Now, you may see this and think, okay, they lost their rockers off their rocker right now. I mean, why in the world would they get a Chinese person teaching at a Black American university? Well, it's because the trend is leaning in this direction. Number one, I will say this. It is important for, regardless of what you may think or believe, for all students to, if you're in college or university or in any university, you should be taking some type of studies when it comes to China and business, period. You should be doing that anyway, because again, as we keep going on, you're going to see why this is important. Now, this was posted all the way back in 2013. So they've been at this for a while. Morgan State, part of historic HBCU China Learning Exchange Partnership. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just read part of it. It says Morgan State University President David Wilson yesterday joined a cadre of historically Black college and university presidents who, alongside members of the Congressional Black Caucus, announced a historic partnership with the People's Republic of China to increase cultural exchange between China and America's HBCUs. And then it goes on and it talks about how, again, with the Congressional Black Caucus, you have these HBCUs working hand in hand with China. Okay, so again, this goes all the way back to 2013, but just continue to follow me here. Okay, now this is this article was posted on blackenterprise.com back in March of this year, 2024. Chinese family donates $5 million to support Black college students as a thank you. All right. Now, this is really interesting here. The Dong family will donate $5 million to support Black college students in an act inspired by the bravery of a Black entrepreneurial couple. Not going to read the whole thing. I'll just read some of the main highlights here. The Chinese American Dong family of Coronado, California, is set to donate $5 million to support Black college students, a gesture stemming from the generosity shown to them by Emma and Gus Thompson, a Black entrepreneur couple in 1939, according to NBC News. Faced with racially restrictive housing laws that left them struggling to secure shelter, the Dongs found an unlikely ally in the Thompsons, who allowed them to rent and eventually buy their Coronado property when no one else would. That's interesting. Coronado, I know exactly where that is, and you have Black people that was living there. You'd be hard pressed to find that now. But anyway, it may enable some kids to go and flourish in college that might have not been otherwise, Janice Dong, 86, says, and then it goes on. So here you have a Chinese family, family that's donating $5 million to a Black college And they didn't say, I guess it's a general fund. They don't say exactly what school, but they're donating $5 billion to a school. Now, the first thing that immediately comes to mind to me on this is the fact that this is coming from China. I mean, indirectly. But isn't it interesting that here right now during this elections, you have people like Joy Reid that's so up in arms about, oh, these black people who are thinking for themselves, the Russians must have gotten to them to have them thinking for themselves, that kind of thing. But here we got Chinese people who are actually funding, in part, $5 billion. Quite honestly, it's a lot, but it ain't a lot. HBCUs, China is working hand in hand with Russia. So why is it that people like Joy Reid ain't bringing that up? But wait, there's more. Let's continue. All right, here's another article. This one is in Forbes. This was posted 2018. Chinese companies are buying up closed colleges. Yeah, that's right. Here in the United States, in a higher education environment beset by political controversies, dwindling public trust, soaring costs, and increasing competition from alternatives to college, some schools are struggling to survive. Earlier this year, that Moody Investor Service announced 11 private colleges a year are closing on average, a number expected to rise due to major gaps between operating revenue and expenses. When factoring in for-profit schools, a struggling sector hit hard by the recent regulations to rein in malfeasance in the industry. And they said more than 100 have closed since 2016. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'm just going to read a little bit more here. While those colleges aren't coming back to life, Chinese education companies may revive some campuses, running the purchased schools as new administrators or creating all new institutions. In March, Bloomberg reported Chinese companies have purchased at least 4 campuses since 2015. Chinese companies already have purchased Bay State College in Boston, Dowling College in New York, Daniel Webster College in New Hampshire, and Chester College of New England. And then they said that at this time, they said a sale for Westminster Choir College in New Jersey is pending. So as you can see, China is making some serious inroads and has been for a long time. Anything from owning property, scooping up property here in the United States, be it land or, land with building structures already on it, been buying different things. And also in the schools. Now they're getting into the schools now where they're actually owning schools, including HBCUs. So, a lot of times as Black Americans, we may look to Africa and say, man, look at all these Chinese people. China has just come in and basically has taken over this continent in many ways. But while we're looking over there, what many people don't realize is that it's been happening here and is continuing to happen. So what people have to understand, again, is that this BRICS thing, regardless who ends up in the White House, it's still rolling. And so what's going to end up happening over time is that we're going to see this thing become more and more and more of an issue. And we're moving closer to a whole transition where at the end of the day, it really is not going to matter who's in the White House, because now you got a whole group of nations that said, listen, we are the captain now. You know what I'm saying? We are the captain of this ship now. And that's exactly what's happening. So when you look at this election, again, what I encourage you to do, yes, you can get involved. You can listen in to the different things that are happening, the tit for tat stuff. But I also want you to focus on the much bigger picture that's happening right now. And I want you, and this is why when you hear me say on this platform, oftentimes, it doesn't really matter ultimately who wins. I don't care who you vote for, because at the end of the day, what's coming over the horizon is going to be the one that's going to have the final say so anyway. And when we look at this thing called BRICS, I'm telling you right now, we are pretty much there right now. So make sure you're focusing on the much bigger picture and not so more focused on this smaller stuff here, because after the elections, people are going to switch and talk about other things. But this thing right here we're talking about right now, I'm telling you right now, we are in for some major changes in the world stage. And the question is, how are you preparing for it? Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. You guys take care, and I'll see you again soon.